Hello and welcome to part 6 on how to create a YouTube UI with ReactJS. In this part I will create the thumbnails. We are going to add the thumbnail image and the thumbnail details. So let's get started right away. So let's see, last time we left off at the sidebar right here. We have finished that one and we are just going to start at the content section right here. So to start off with the content section, I'm first going to create the title right here. Then we are going to create the YouTube videos right here with the thumbnails and the titles. So to start off, I'm going to open up the content section component, this right here, and I'm going to create the title. So this will be the recommended title. And if I save this up, we will see our title appearing right here. And next up, I want to give the whole content section a little bit of spacing. As you can see, it is removed from the left and from the top, and as well from the right. So I think I'm going to give it like 25 pixel spacing between each side. So in my container, I'm going to add those padding, which is right here. I'm going to say 25 pixels. And I think I'm going to double it, 50 pixels. Yes. And I might even want to remove the padding from my title. So I'm going to increase this to 70 pixels. And then in the title right here, content title, I'm going to remove the padding. And I'm going to give it a margin of 0 pixels. And as you can see, the title is now a little bit less moved away from the top. And I'm going to actually increase the padding at the left and the right a little bit and decrease it from the top. So I'm going to say padding left and right, and then padding top and bottom to be different. So top right, and then we have bottom left, and top and right, or sorry, top and bottom will be 35 pixels and left and right 70 pixels, like so. And then we want to decrease the font weight of our title. So this will be a font weight of 500, I think. Maybe even smaller, 400. Yes, something like that. And we want to decrease the font size a little bit. So this will be, I think, 32 pixels. That's way too big, 24. Something like that. And now that we have our title right here, I'm going to create the YouTube images. So for those thumbnails, actually, I'm going to create a different component since we will be reusing this. I'm going to create the video thumbnail. And this will actually be a folder. So I'm going to remove this file and I'm going to create a new folder named video thumbnail. And then right here, I'm going to create a new file, video thumbnail.tsx, and a video thumbnail.css. And right here, we are going to import React. And we are going to export the function. Like so, and then I want to use it in my content section. So right here, I'm going to say video thumbnail, and I've imported it from the location where we have created it. And if I save this up, we will see one thumbnail, and if we paste in another one, we will see the second thumbnail. So next thing we are going to do is we are going to import an image into our thumbnail. So I have already selected an image which we'll be using for our thumbnails, which is this one. So in my video thumbnail, instead of going to render this, I will be rendering an image with the source of, let's see, assets, images, logo, thumbnail.jpg, like so. And if I save this up, we will see our image appearing twice. Next up, I want to style the image because it is a little bit too big right now. And I'm going to give this a class name of video thumbnail container. This will be the thumbnail, like so. I'm going to copy this over right here. and I want to target the thumbnail, and I want to give it a fixed width of 400 pixels and a height of 220 pixels, something like that. And that might be a little bit too big, so I'm going to decrease it to 380 and 200. And then I want to fix the image proportions. So I'm going to say that I want let's see, object position of center and an object fit of cover, so the images don't get stretched out anymore. So now the images are being displayed to their ratios, so that's good. Next up, I want to import actually more thumbnails. So in my content section, I'm going to create a couple of more of them, like so. And next up, I want to display them in some kind of grid. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we get another row and another row. So this repeats for the whole page. So let's see. We are going to create a grid right here, which will hold 8 thumbnails. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm going to give this a class name of video grid. So I think it is always a grid of 8 or 4. Yeah, so the size differs. Let's see. So to display those items next to each other in the grid, I'm going to be targeting the video grid. And I'm going to give it a display of grid. And then I'm going to define the template columns. So I'm going to say grid template columns, which will be auto, 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 because we will have 4 columns, as you can see. And the first thing I'm noticing is that we can scroll horizontally, which is not what I want. So let's see why that is happening. We have our content container right here. We have the video grid, which has a fixed width. Okay, so I think the reason why we can scroll is because our images are too big. So if I look at this, and if I remove the width, the images will scale to the grid. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to remove the width from here, and then the images will fit into the grid, which is what we want. Let's see, next up I want a little bit of spacing between the title and the grid. So right here we have our title, and we want a little bit of margin at the bottom of 15 pixels, like so. And then we want to, let's see, give our YouTube thumbnails a title and a channel icon. So for the channel icon, I'm going to be using the same image as I did for the YouTube thumbnail. And then for the channel title, I'm going to be passing that in as a string or as a variable into our video thumbnail. So right here, I'm going to say interface props, and we are going to create the title, which will be a string, like so. And then we expect title to be passed in right here, so that we can then display it right here. So let's see, we have a title which will be an H3, and then the channel name with the views and the let's see, time that it has been online. So it will be an H3, and right here we have the title. Then we will need to pass it in right here. And maybe by default we want to have a title already, so we don't have to pass it in right here. So what we can say is that it will be a nullable, like so. And now by default it won't have a title, but it won't need a title. Let's see. Yes, okay, but now we won't see anything because we don't have a title received. So I can make it nullable, and I can also give it a default value, which will be, for example, this. So right now everything should have a default title, and if I'm right, I could even no. Okay, so I do need to pass in the nullable right here, but what this does is we can say to this component, if we don't get a title from our parent, which is this one, we want to give it a default title, which will be literally the text default. So for example, if I give the third thumbnail title of not default, we will see that that title is not default and the rest will be default. So that's really good for giving placeholders to components. So for the default title, I may want to make something like Antarctica penguins, and then for this one Antarctica penguins 220k, something like that. So let's see, we have our title, then we want to put an image next to it, and then at the bottom we want to put the channel name. So let's see how I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to do this by creating another grid, since we have here one grid column and here another, I think. I could also use flex, but then I don't think that I will get the nice spacing which we have right here. So I'm going to be using a grid for that as well. Let's see, we have a grid right here, which will be description, and in my description I have a title, I have an image which will be the let's see, channel icon, title, then we will have our channel name, and then the views with the month, or well, with the time spent on YouTube already. So we will have our views, we will also have our channel name, and the views and the time that it has been online. I think I'm going to put it into one, which will be the details of the video. So right here we have our channel name, details, channel icon. I'm going to be using the image for that, and then I'm going to save this up, and we will see our thumbnails appearing. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to crop the channel icon so it won't actually look so big, because right now it is covering the whole page. So we have our video thumbnail container, we have our thumbnail, and inside of our thumbnail we have the description and then a channel icon. I'm going to give it a width of 32 pixels and a height of 32 pixels, like so. And I want to also give it a border radius of 50%, like so. And then I want to do the same as I did right here, so the image won't get out of proportions. So next up, I want to assign a grid to the description. I'm going to say display grid, and let's see, what kind of grid do we want to create? We want to create a grid with 4 columns, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to say grid, let's see, layout, I think, grid template, areas. We will have a channel icon, oh well, we will have an icon, we will have a title, and then we will have a nothing. So let's see, I'm going to leave that empty, I think, empty, and then we will have the details, like so. And I hope that I can then say that I want to display those sections at the correct areas. So for example, I have the title right here. What will happen if I give it the correct area? We'll have our title. We'll also have our channel name and details. Channel, and actually I'm going to put the channel name inside of the details as well, like so. So this will be the details section. And then let's see, I want to give this a grid area of icon, and hopefully it will assign it to the correct area. Let's see if it's working. Okay, so it doesn't recognize it. If I remove the so I think this works. Yes. And our grid right here is also displaying correctly. So if I give this the grid area of title, like so. I hope it is working. I can't really tell. Next one is the details. So yeah, I think it is working since it put the details and the title underneath each other. So I'm going to remove the quotes from here, and I'm going to add the title to here, and right here the details. And I'm going to adjust the size of our columns. So right now we get 50% for each column, but actually I want the first column to be like 50 pixels or maybe 75 pixels. So to fix this, I'm going to adjust my grid template columns, just like what we did before. And I'm going to say that I want the first to be 80 pixels and the rest to be automatically. And it doesn't look like it takes that on. So the grid is actually working, but I assigned too much value to our channel icon. So if I decrease this to 50 pixels, we will see that it will shrink down to 50 pixels. And next up, I'm going to move the Antarctica penguins, the title, next to the icon. So I'm going to do that by removing the margin from it. So I'm going to say margin 0 pixels. And now it is next to the channel icon, and to center it I'm going to use display of flex, and then I'm going to align it center like so. And then we want the channel name and the views and the hours to display beneath there. So right here I'm going to put a div instead of a span, and then right here we will have our channel name, and then our let's see, views and hours. And I'm going to put this in another div. And I'm going to call this the views hours, like so. And let's see, I want to decrease the font weight of our title. So this one will have a font weight of 400, I think. Maybe 500. Yes. And then I want to make the channel name and the views a little bit gray and a little bit more small. So this will be a color of RGB, let's see, 100, and I think a little bit lighter. Yes. I also want to decrease the font weight to 400. Yes. And then I want to, let's see, decrease the font size to 40 pixels, maybe 15, like so. And then I want to, let's see, add a little bit of spacing between the YouTube thumbnail and the title. So the title and the channel icon are wrapped inside of our div description, and I'm going to add the margin to the description. So I'm going to add a margin top to here of, let's see, 10 pixels I think, and I'm going to move this right here, and I'm actually going to decrease this to 5 pixels, and I'm going to remove the text align center to our title, or our align item center, like so. And then I want to decrease the size between our title and the channel name and view hours. So let's see how we can do that. We have right here the title and our channel name, and I think the only way to do that is by decreasing the height of the image since our columns are otherwise overlapping. So actually, instead of using grid, I'm going to go with the flexbox solution right here, since we do have only 2 columns, and then we won't have to worry about the height of the columns. So I'm going to remove this from here and also the grid, like so. I'm going to remove the grid areas right here, and then I'm going to give this section a display of flex. So we have our description, and then I want to give the section with other text also a display of flex. This section is right here, and I'm going to put the title inside of the details, like so. So where do we have the title? Right here. I'm going to target it by going into the details first. And then I want to give the title a white color, like so. And then I want to have a little spacing between the left and the right column, which I will do by just putting a margin left on our description. So instead of only a margin top, I'm going to add a margin left as well, which will be 15 pixels. And it is not showing up. The reason is because it is also applying this to our channel icon. I actually have to apply it to our details section. So let's see, the details are being targeted right here. So if I put the margin left on here, we'll see that we have 15 pixels of space between the details and the logo of the channel. So that is working correctly. Next up, I want to change this with numbers and the hours. So for now, I'm going to just put right here some default text. So to display the views and hours, I'm going to copy over what we have right here. And I'm actually going to remove one span, and I'm going to put this inside of only one span, like so. And to finish off this episode, I want to put a little bit of spacing between the YouTube thumbnails vertically. So as you can see, the content of the first thumbnail is being put right on top of the second one, or well, the fifth one. So I'm going to be doing that by adding a little bit of a gap between our grid. So to add a little gap between the two rows, I'm going to be using the grid row gap, and I'm actually going to use the row gap variable, and I'm going to put it at 25 pixels. And as you can see, now we have a nice little bit of spacing between our thumbnails. And with this, I want to finish off this episode. I hope you could follow along, and I hope I see you next time. Bye!